Welcome to The Disappearing Mind, a unique podcast helping you find clarity and support along your dementia journey. Now, join National Dementia Trainer and Coach, Dawn Platt, for an all-new episode.
Welcome back to the Disappearing Mind podcast. I am your host, Dawn Platt, dementia advocate, coach, and memory care leader. In episode 1 and 2, we talked about the science, inflammation, metabolic health, neurodegeneration, and what research is telling us about modifiable risk factors in our diet. But today, we're moving from theory to action. We're going to talk about Carrie's book. Because there's truth in it and it's practical, and I really want to highlight, we're going to really give you some information about some of the changes that you can make and how you can understand inflammation, how you can understand insulin resistance, how you can understand research studies, but just really having a book of reference, one that you can tear the pages out and put on your refrigerator or copy. Carrie Bloemers is a registered dietitian. She's been with me on 2 other segments. Carrie, I apologize. I've butchered your name probably every time, but you are the author of The Mind Diet for Healthy Aging and the Daily Tracker, which is a very, very practical, user-friendly, easy read book that you have created. Today, we're going to dive into the specific food groups outlined in her book, the practicality of choosing them. Carrie is very lenient for those of us who are not always compliant. I will tell you that. How that tracker works, how to use it, who it's for, and how to start even if you're imperfect. Carrie, welcome back to the podcast.
It's a pleasure to be here and keep the conversation going.
Absolutely. So, Carrie, tell us about your practice. You're a registered dietitian, where you work, what area of the country you live in.
Absolutely. So I'm the system director of Wellness at Lee Health. I'm a registered dietitian, and my current role is really focused more on population level, right? So it's educating and prevention in our older adult population in Southwest Florida. We have a healthy life center that even has a teaching kitchen where we do some of our nutrition education hands-on and teaching culinary skills as well. It also involves workforce. So folks that are still involved at the bedside in healthcare, all ages, all different positions. So general wellness and lifestyle factors, improving those. And of course, with wellness, how that really gets intertwined into patient care and diagnoses for folks, whether it's chronic diseases, where we know lifestyle has a big impact, the caregiver side for patients, and other places like cancer prevention and improving surgical outcomes as well. So this topic specifically is my passion as a registered dietitian. My first love has always been all things nutritional science, and I just enjoy this conversation about brain health and how we empower the listeners with simple, easy ways to incorporate some of these enhancements into their lifestyle.
So your book highlights 10 food categories with the Mind Diet framework in mind. But before we get into the practicality, I want to say that my colleagues read the book before I did, and they said it was an easy read. So when I picked it up, I found it a very easy read. But what I'm most excited about and what I want to share with our listening audience is that not only research is moving towards diet and physical exercise, but preventative means for decreasing of Alzheimer's disease and related dementias, neurocognitive diseases in general. And more every day, we are hearing more research that's preventative in nature. Even the Alzheimer's Association is really moving towards brain health, and your book is in line with that. It is practical. I think it's something that anyone could pick up and use, no matter if they're 18 years old or 80 years
Mhm.
old, there's a place to start. And I really felt like today I wanted to get into not only the food groups, but for myself who likes to cook, maybe some practical recipes and putting
Yay.
these things together, and how we don't have to have 50 recipes. We could have something that we repeated. But your book highlights 10 different categories. Let's walk through them a little bit to get some clearer understanding. Um, can you briefly outline those core food groups in the
Yeah.
tracker and what it emphasizes?
Sure. So there's the green leafy vegetables. So we're looking for a serving, at least a cup of those every single day. And to throw in some easy ways, a lot of folks do enjoy salads. So that's a great place to start. I also wilt greens around dinners a lot. So having small children, we do have spaghetti and putting it in those type of dishes and meals too. So you have your green leafy vegetables. The next one would be all other vegetables, right? We know we need to increase the vegetables in the standard American diet. So we want a serving of other vegetables throughout the day as well. The fruit that's called out as the third category would be berries. So berries, being a powerful antioxidant, are recommended on a daily basis. We have our nuts. That would be a great opportunity for a snack with some protein and fiber. The fifth group would be extra virgin olive oil. So as a protective factor, extra virgin olive oil really kind of disrupts that whole very low fat trend of the 90s. Like, fats are good. We have essential fatty acids. We need omegas. They're important for our brain. So olive oil being one of those powerful oils. Then in the next row, we have our whole grain. So increasing that fiber is really that emphasis of whole grains. So we're not just eating empty carbohydrates like crackers or snack foods or just plain old breads. The next one would be fish. So having some of that healthy fatty fish with those high omegas again would be protective. You have beans as a plant-based protein, a high fiber-based food. Next is our poultry, like a lean protein, and knowing we need to keep good sources of protein as we age for our balance, our brain health, our coordination as well. The last group, which is now a little controversial, but part of the original research would be that red wine. And we're really seeing newer things within the past 12 months that show any alcohol is a neurotoxin. So really, my approach there in the book would be, if you're going to have alcohol, red wine has some of the plant benefits that come from it being made of grapes. But we really want to work on moderation of our alcohol servings throughout the week.
Okay, so let's break it down into some of those categories, and then I want to talk
Yeah.
about, I know, recipes. I was
Yeah,
putting a salad together as you were going through that, and I think that that's a good way to start getting all those groups you just mentioned. But why
absolutely.
leafy greens daily? What are the benefits of
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, leafy greens, they really have some factors that are necessary for normal everyday detox. So they are components that our they are components that our liver needs. The liver has two cycles or phases of detox. There's phase one and phase two. And if we're missing any of those cofactors along that wheel, like if you think of kind of like a paddle wheel, then it gets clogged and backed up. So I don't say that in a way that's meant to be sensational for detox or go, do a detox or get detox teas or any of that. But there are cofactors and processes that are reliant on these nutrients found in greens. And we know when it comes to the neurotoxins and environmental factors, our liver, that's its role, is everyday detox. And if we're not doing that efficiently, some of those things and those factors can build up in the body.
Okay, what makes berries unique compared to other fruits?
Yeah. Oh, berries have a super high antioxidant level. We talked about them in the previous episode, really. They're that like superhero that goes and tracks down those floating free radicals. Free radicals are the bad guys in masks, and those antioxidants need to go eat them up. They, overtake them, neutralize them, and help decrease that inflammation level in our body. So those deep pigment berries, such a simple way to get a lot of those antioxidants on a regular basis.
Okay. And how often and what kind of fish should someone aim for?
Yeah, so you want to aim for those fattier fish, salmon, mackerel, tuna. You want ones that are higher in that omega-3. We want to think about the way we prep it, not necessarily a fish fry or a fried fish sandwich, but a baked or broiled or maybe pan-seared type fish that is a healthy cooking method versus anything that's battered and deep fried. Fish a couple times a week is the general recommendation. It is a healthy source of protein as well and brings along those healthy brain fats that are protective as well.
So, for maybe a senior that's on a limited budget, are there types of
Mhm.
fish that are that they could purchase that would meet the need, but maybe not be as
Yeah.
expensive as fresh salmon?
Yeah. You can even look in the canned area, the canned tunas. With that, we're always looking at the source, right? We do want to be aware of any mercury contamination or areas that are fish that are higher in mercury. There's some good website tools that you can utilize. Seafoodwatch.org is one of them. SEAFOOD watch.org, and it helps rank fish and share the mercury levels and omega levels for consumers, and that changes right over time. So that's one way to look at it. Also, frozen white type fishes. There's haddock and other type of fish that you can typically get in the single serving that are convenient, so there's not excess or waste, and it's a single serving as a time. Another way to incorporate fish in a more economical way.
Great. Are whole grains truly necessary or can people substitute?
I would ask, what would you substitute with?
I don't know.
Okay. I'm like, is it a trick question? Is it a trick question? So, I think the thing about whole grains is it's talking about fiber. So, my rule of thumb personally, and then what I recommend to folks is if you're reaching that for something that's like a carbohydrate based food, you want it to be a food in its whole form, like a brown rice or a quinoa or something that's an actual grain, right? We can visibly see that and know, oh, it came like from the plant like that. Um, or if it's a more processed type grain, that it's that 100% whole grain, whole wheat, so that it has that higher fiber and it comes with some of more of the micro minerals as well. Otherwise, your carbohydrates, you think breads, rolls, crackers, and then a lot of like processed meal type foods that have a lot of carbohydrates in them. There's really no nutrients that we're getting from them, just calories. So they're really categorized in that like empty calorie. There's nothing in that that's very protective. If anything, carbohydrates are going to then break down into sugar. So it could really impact those blood sugar levels over time. So the whole grain has that higher fiber, stabilize the blood sugar and break down slowly in the body as well.
Okay. Last question in this category. What
Okay.
role do beans play metabolically?
Well, beans actually are a great source of fiber. So that's one of your plant-based proteins that's also high in fiber. So the standard American diet is about 50% low in fiber these days is what the current estimate is. We need that like 20 to 25, 30 grams for some men. The standard American diet has 12 to 15 grams. So we're 50% or less of the daily recommendation. Beans are a great source of fiber. We can throw them into different meals to make them even more 100% plant-based. And fiber itself, like I mentioned, slows the digestion of the foods. So it's going to help you feel fuller. It's going to help stabilize that blood sugar and at the same time deliver some critical nutrients like the protein that we need that helps. It's muscle sparing, we say, right? It helps protect our muscle mass as we age and helps us keep our balance and our function and come with some of those micro minerals and things from the ground because beans themselves are a whole food. You look at a bean and you know it's a bean and no one, processed it or did anything to it. So it's a good whole food as well.
So you've given us the categories. Do you have any suggested recipes or Is it salads? Is it a lean piece of chicken and a side dish? How do you put this all together? Because I keep envisioning this beautiful salad with olive oil on it.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah. Salad's a great one. Many people enjoy salad, and we have a lot of different options even when eating out. So I do love to think about salads with this color, the concoction, the lean protein, some great options there. The other way my family personally does it, and I have smaller children, so children or grandchildren, this could be fun to introduce to them as well, would be smoothies, berries, and we do put the fresh spinach right in there, even a little bit of lemon juice, so you can get some good phytonutrients and plant foods in there. Um, the other method I recommend as a simple one is really getting into, I love roasting vegetables, I would say. So, and those other whole starchy vegetables could be in there, or a replacement for the whole grain. So think about potatoes, right? There's really nothing wrong with the potato until we fry it, and then it's a ultra processed food and has harmful fats. But roasting that colorful, different variety of veggies every week, having potatoes or even whole grain rice available, and with your side of protein. I love that in those like one sheet pan type recipes that kind of you can do your veggie, your starch, and your protein, whether it's a fish or a chicken, right at the same time.
ooh, that sounds good. Okay, for
Mhm.
someone who might be overwhelmed, do they need to
Mm,
pick all 10 at once, or should they start with two or three and build momentum?
yeah. I would definitely recommend starting with one or two things at a time. And that is not me. That's really behavioral science. When we literally bite off more than we can chew, we quit, right? When it becomes so hard, or you bend over backwards to make it work for a week or two, it's exhausting. We still feel defeated and we quit, and we don't necessarily start again. So I absolutely recommend starting with one or two of those food groups that we've been talking about, and really thinking of the best way for you to add it, what works in your foods that maybe you're already doing, or maybe you've thought of a simple way to do that. Um, you can use Google or Pinterest or the internet as a tool for suggestions on incorporating berries, right? Nuts could be an easy snack, right? Like I'm going to buy a unsalted, not honey roasted type nut mix, and that's going to be my afternoon snack instead of a bowl of chips, right? So start with a small change versus all 10 at one time, and that will compound then into that ongoing success.
In reference to your book, is the goal perfection or pattern consistency?
Mm, absolutely not perfection. Really acknowledging there's room for social and tradition and cultures, whether you think about celebrating birthdays or foods that you grew up eating, there can be room for that. And ultimately, perfection brings a lot of shame and guilt for folks, and they don't stick with it anyways. So, one of my chapters is even titled Patterns in Time, right? Because what this is all about is what we do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, what those patterns are over time. And when we can take a foundational meal or habit or behavior and get it in there with these protective food factors, we're going to compound that success over time, those protective benefits.
So, for those listening, we're talking about the Mind Diet for healthy aging and a daily tracker. So, let's get into the tracker. Let's talk about the
Yeah.
tracker itself. You didn't just write a guide, but you created a tool tracker, and there's
Yeah.
lots of pages of the tool tracker, right? Which I found interesting and I liked it a lot. So, why did you do that?
Yeah, I really wanted this to be a book in a workbook sense that people marked up and really engaged with. And like you said, you might find in here a list that you want to rip off and put on your fridge, and that would make me happy as the author. I hope you do. I hope you use your highlighters on the different pages and circle things, and rip out or cut out lists as reminders. And then the back is really a whole month of the daily tracker. So each page is the same with the intent to go day by day to monitor and track yourself, right? That builds awareness. And awareness is one of the first steps in behavior change. If we're not aware and we're just moving through our food choices in this example, or our sleep, there's a sleep tracker, sleep quality, sleep duration as a lifestyle factor for cognitive decline in here as well. If we're not even monitoring, we don't know, right? And what's our norm? What's our pattern? So the ability to bring some attention to it and then see opportunities that we can add. And that also helps us build small daily wins, right? If you're not having berries at all and then they're in there once or twice a week, then 3 to 4 times a week, we can see that build and that compound habit change over time. So trackers are an accountability tool, yes. They're also made for the user to help change. And in this case, my goal is really sustaining behaviors for you all.
Mhm. Well, for the tracker myself, we've been talking about prevention. We've been talking about really things you could do after a
Mhm.
diagnosis or even preventative, right? So for
Absolutely.
me, the tracker would be, measuring myself. I think that we're able to make 2 or 3 changes right off the bat. And you mentioned something that I want to re-mention, and I'm sorry, I don't remember if it's this episode or the last one, but you talked about the changes in our taste buds and all of that, and we assume that we crave sweets and all of that. But if we make these changes, we will find that we don't necessarily totally have the palate for it. Talk about that
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. As we change the foods we're eating and eat more whole foods and less processed, less high salt, less high sodium, your taste buds turn over, right? There's a lot of wear and tear in the mouth from the chewing and the mechanical part of digestion, that there's basically a new set of your taste buds in your mouth every 2 weeks. And then therefore that sweet point, the salt point, readjusts for folks. The other piece of that story, the research is showing to really add on to, is about the microbiome. And we haven't talked about that yet, but really the sugar feeds a more harmful type bacteria in our gut. And when we stop feeding it that, they do start to die off, and helps the good, healthy gut bacteria flourish. And though that change as well has an influence over those cravings and the sensitivities to our taste and preferences when it comes to sugar and salt and those processed foods.
Well, we're probably going to have to make that our 4th episode when you come back to the podcast to join us. So, when you wrote this, were you looking at prevention? Was it for mild cognitive impairment? Was it directly for caregivers? I mean, I think that the Mind Diet influences and impacts all of these areas. But what was your motivation behind the book?
I agree with you. It was really all. It's research that I've been aware of since it was published in 2015. And just as I keep experiencing in life, right? And I know we mentioned my father's diagnosis of Parkinson's in his early 60s, and meeting people in all walks of life in any age bracket, and really still thinking and knowing, hey, these dietary patterns, this protocol is impactful for any of these groups. And whether it's already to the point of diagnosis and we're looking at quality of life and preventing progression, whether it's the caregiver and looking at ways to take care of self and patient without overcomplicating it for special diets for one and not the other, or it's people with young families, right? And it's what we feed our children and what we put in our bodies every day to prevent development of chronic diseases, from aging, from dementias, and we do know more, right? I've mentioned, like, nutrition is a young science. So the founding Mind Body paper really, I'm sorry, the founding Mind Diet paper that was published in 2015, there's only been more literature since that has added to this conversation around really nutrition as a preventative tool in this category.
So the other thing that I really liked about your book, and thank you for doing it, is you recognize that we're imperfect.
Hmm.
When we start imperfectly, like I think many of us do, I want to look at how the book, how the mind diet can, normalize something. So people
Yeah.
tend to start strong, right? Then life happens. And especially in the caregiving setting, when you're talking about being a dementia caregiver, it's a 36-hour day, it's up
Yeah.
and down. So let's talk reality here. What if someone starts and then messes up? Does research tell us that, is this about small changes? Is it about consistency over time? What are we
Yeah.
talking about here?
Yeah. It's really about that cognitive flexibility, and it's the ability of our minds to take this goal and behavior change with a flexible approach, right? That doesn't demand perfection. When I worked in nutrition counseling one-on-one with folks, the patients that I were most concerned about were the ones that came back at that second appointment and were on paper, by trackers, by discussion perfect, right? That they had it all figured out and they were doing everything correctly. They did everything at once. That was the biggest warning sign that a, they'd be here for a little bit and then never come back, and usually right before that, they'd have a visit where like, "Oh, I fell off and I'll get back together with it," all of that. So something in our mindsets, that flexibility with our own selves and our goals is super important, because when we add that perfection, we bring then the other side, which is like guilt and shame, and when we feel like we failed, then we feel bad and guilty. It's not motivating intrinsically, extrinsically, either way. And people are more likely to kind of give up and say, this is too hard. And that's not what we want for any of our listeners or caregivers out there. So it's really also about developing a mindset. And I am a dietitian, so I can tell you all as a dietitian, it's okay, right? You are going to have times and days and weeks, even, and sometimes even longer spells where you feel like you haven't had a good quality meal or done any of these things or had these foods that we talked about. And that's okay. And it's what can you do next, right? What's the next small thing that you can do and you can choose that will help bring some of these healthy, good factors back into your nutrition? So don't beat yourselves up. Let it go and just think about what you do have control over moving forward. And again, I don't expect prevent or perfection for myself, for my family, patients, those around me, and I don't expect it of any of you either.
I love that approach, and thank you for including that in your book for those of us
Yeah.
who may not be totally disciplined. But when we talk about the mind diet, when we talk about any diet, right, which we've done for years, and when you're my age, you've probably done every diet under the sun, but this approach is not about that. I mean, I think we typically think about weight loss or these huge changes, but realistically, when we're talking about Alzheimer's disease or related dementias, when we're talking about neurocognitive diseases or decline, what changes? I mean, what's practical? What's realistic that someone could expect benefits that they might see after 2 weeks, 6 weeks,
Yeah.
3 months, a year? What's the practicality of things? What are the little things that perhaps we might be able to see following the mind diet?
Absolutely. I think with any dietary change and people start improving the quality, it's going to be as much about physical changes that we all think about first, right? A few pounds of weight loss or inches or the way your clothes feel. It also is about your energy levels. It's the sleep quality. It's the mood, the what we eat and our mood is so connected as well, right? How we feel. So it's those other changes that add on that are honestly the real true benefits. On the inside, then what we're experiencing, right, is we're lowering that systemic inflammation, that invisible inflammation in the body, and that's going to help improve our all over metabolic health. health. So ongoing for caregivers, for family members, right? We want to lower that risk of chronic disease. Heart health has some correlations with the development of dementias, right? As blood flow changes and oxygenation levels and getting all these healthy factors around the brain. So that development of chronic disease, we want to delay, prevent that as well. So really these changes over time are going to lead to that longer health span, right? That quality of life versus the time in the end of the lifespan where it may just be more sick care or that progression where we don't have the high quality of life that we'd want.
So, Carrie, is it ever too late? What if somebody is, 70, 75 years old? Is it ever too late to start making these changes?
Absolutely not. Yeah, I think there's always a change we can make. It's never too late for someone. We see data on, aging and lifespan and how those are changing, and modern medicine is helping us stay alive longer, right? We definitely know that. So what we have influence then is on the quality of those years. And so don't write yourself off in your 70s, right? You could be the next octogenarian, the next centurion living past 100. And think of how you want to spend those years, just being kept alive in a sedentary faction, or involved and engaged and socially connected and beyond. So I think, you hear the phrase now, like, age is just a number, right? So we need to erase that age as a barrier for making lifestyle changes. We can still really greatly impact our quality of life, how we feel, our energy level through food and nutrition.
The name of Carrie's book is The Mind Diet for Healthy Aging. Carrie, just a last minute thought that you have is something maybe we haven't covered that you want to leave our audience with.
Oh, yeah. As much as nutrition's my first love and very powerful, I don't want to ignore the other lifestyle factors that also go alongside it. And when we talk about change, some people like to start in other categories, and that's fine. So, physical activity, sleep quality. I talk about gratitude and the power of that positive thinking in the book as well. The meditation and mindfulness. So sometimes we do need to focus on our stress and our ways of coping before we're going to be able to make dietary changes. So thinking holistically about lifestyle factors, I think, is also really important in the conversation here, and just encourage people to get started where they're ready to get started.
Thank you for joining me today and for the other episodes that you've contributed to. I hope you'll come back and join us again.
Thank you so much for having me.
The Mind Diet for Healthy Aging is available on Amazon. I encourage you to pick it up. I feel like it's simplistic. I feel like it's practical, certainly user-friendly. So this episode has made a difference for you. I would like you to subscribe. I'd like you to share it. I'd like you to write into The Disappearing Mind at www.thedisappearingmind.com. Let us know what you're wanting to hear. Let us know how you're feeling about the podcast. We're here to serve those on the dementia journey. We've been talking about the Mind Diet with a registered dietitian. And I think that I want to cast some hope that there are practical steps that people can take even after a dementia diagnosis. There are tools out there. There are professionals like Carrie that are available to you. Until next time, I want to say to you, make it a memorable day. This is Dawn Platt. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for joining us for the Disappearing Mind podcast. We hope it's helped you find clarity and support along your journey. Be sure to subscribe to never miss an episode, visit our website to suggest future topics, and share the podcast with friends and family.